Hi guys, it's Teresa. Welcome back to my channel. So as you might know, if you've been following my channel, I've recently been talking about series a lot because I just at my parents' house right now and I have my beautiful shelves right here to look at, and I don't know, I just wanted to make some videos about my series because I'm excited about these a lot. I've been trying to get myself to read more series and specifically to finish more series, but anyway, if you have not seen the videos where I show you all of my completed series that I own, as well as my favorite completed series, I will link them in the cards and in the description box below. But today we're talking about my favorite ongoing series. Now I feel like I don't get enough chance to talk about ongoing series as much because I do have a video every year for the last 2 years at least, where I talk about the series I've completed that year, but not really where I talk about the series I've started. And so I feel like, yeah, these kind of slip through the cracks a little bit. So I wanted to specifically sit down and film this video and show you my favorite ongoing series. Now these might either be ongoing because they haven't been fully published yet, or because just I haven't finished them, which is more often than not, that's the case. I am just very bad, as I've said, at actually sitting down and focusing on a series and actually finishing it. If you are enjoying this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe. And now let's jump right into my favorite ongoing series. I'm gonna first talk about those that have been completed officially, but I personally just have not finished them. And that first is the Strange the Dreamer series by Laini Taylor. It's only a duology. The second book is called Muse of Nightmares, but because these hardcovers are kind of expensive, I haven't gotten a chance to get it yet and read it, but I really want to do that as soon as possible. It follows a guy called Laszlo the Dreamer who is obsessed with the lost city of Weep that has been basically no one has heard of in like centuries, I believe. And one day a convoy from that city arrives and asks scholars to come with them because they're having a problem at Weep that needs solving. So Laszlo gets to go along and it's really fun. And I definitely need to reread this book before reading the sequel because I've forgotten a lot of it. But I just remember that I personally just am obsessed with Laini Taylor's writing. I know her writing style is not for everyone, and most people that didn't enjoy this book credited her writing for that. So I think it's just a matter of like finding out if it's for you or not. If the writing is for you, I'm hoping that you will also love it as much as I did because I think it's very well written. There's a little bit of insta-love in there. I didn't mind as much though because I felt like the story and the world and the characters were strong enough to make up for it. But again, it's something everybody's gonna have to decide for themselves. I personally loved it a lot and I honestly need to read the sequel like yesterday. The next series is very different because it's a hard sci-fi series that I just have been kind of too intimidated to continue, even though I do own the second book. And the third one is also out already, I think. This is the ThreeBody Problem by Cixin Liu. Cixin Liu is a Chinese sci-fi author, and this book is, as I said, hard sci-fi, so it's a little bit difficult to read if you're not necessarily very well versed in physics and the like, which I'm certainly not. I still find it was very interesting because it shares so much of Chinese cultural and historical knowledge that I personally was very interested in and already knew a little bit about. So I kind of had, at least in that sense, already some foreknowledge that helped me grasp the book as a whole. The book is very complex to explain, even just the plot, but basically there's this game that's been developed. It's like a simulation game where you are on a planet that has three different suns. Basically, you have to build up a civilization that actually survives because, well, at random intervals, the suns will like come either all three or none. So obviously, if all three are there, basically the civilization burns to death, and if there's none, everybody freezes. So it's very difficult to predict this pattern, and they're trying to like figure it out. And then there's even the added level of like trying to figure out why we even need to know this, like for what purpose, because there certainly is a purpose. And then also it's about the Chinese Cultural Revolution and like involving the past a little bit. So there's like a past setting, a kind of present time setting, and then yeah, it's very complex to explain. If you're into sci-fi, I recommend checking out because I think it's very well written and it was still interesting even if I didn't get the entire physics part of it. I really just need to read a sequel now. I heard it's really good, so Teresa, get on that now. Next, I really want to finish the Broken Earth trilogy by N.K. Jemisin. The first book is the 5th season. I do own the sequels. They're technically on my TBR for February, but I haven't gotten around to them yet. This is kind of like a sci-fi fantasy series set in a world where there's people called orogenes that have the ability to sense the Earth's movement and influence them, and they're sort of like second-class citizens that are basically just used by the government to their own benefit. It's a really, really cool concept and really cool story, but the writing style gave me a bit of trouble at first because there's segments that are written in second person, which I violently hate. At the same time, the rest of the book managed to intrigue me enough that I felt the urge to continue, so I really want to read the sequels. I hope now, being sort of used to the writing style, that it's gonna go a little bit better, because parts of this were actually painful to read. I don't know what it is. I just can't do second person. I think it's very awkward and it's really difficult. But I still really like this book, unfortunately, almost. Like, I just want to know what happens. I want to read it. But yeah, we shall see how I feel about the sequels. Next I have Sleeping Giants by Sylvain Neuvel, another sci-fi series. This is very different from the ThreeBody Problem. It's very light sci-fi, I think. It's about a girl that falls into a hole and she discovers that there's like this huge hand in there that appears to not have been made out of elements found on the Earth. So it's about their quest to finding all the body parts and figuring out why they're there. They're left by like an alien civilization. For what purpose? That type of thing. I think it's really cool. It's written in file format as well, and I think it works really well. It's very fast-paced, very easy to get into, I think, and I'm just enjoying it. I do own the sequel. I just, again, haven't read it yet. Then I have Alice by Christina Henry, another duology that I just have not finished yet, I guess. This is in Alice's Adventures in Wonderland retelling, or at least a kind of gothic horror story inspired by that fairy tale. I really, really like this book, and I can't wait to read the sequel, but apparently I can't wait because I have been waiting for a very long time. It's also on my TBR for this month, so we shall see if I do finally come around and actually finish this. The rest of the series, I am not exclusively to blame for not having finished yet. The first is The Golem and the Genie by Helene Wecker. This book has been out for, I think, like 10 years or so, but the sequel is nowhere in sight. It says on Goodreads that it was supposed to come out this year, or last year. I think it was supposed to come out somewhere now, but I've not seen anything. Like, there's no set publication date, there's no articles about it online. It's very fishy. I just want the sequel so bad. This book follows a golem and a genie. They meet in like 1900s Chicago? New York, almost. It's not a love story so far. It's just about their adventures together and like them being so different, living in a human society, trying to conceal their nature, but also coming to terms with their natures. And it's just really, really well written. It's beautifully written. The story is fun and interesting, and it shows all the cultural background and like of the times as well, because at the time New York was a melting pot of different cultures. That I think is very well conveyed in this book, and overall I just loved it, and I need a sequel, okay? Next, I have Red Sister by Mark Lawrence. This is the first book of The Ancestor. The second book, Grey Sister, is already out. I do own it, haven't read it yet, but the third, Holy Sister, is coming out this year, so I'm basically hoping to continue and finish the series this year when the third is also out. This follows a young girl called Nona, who is sort of an orphan, and she's taken to a school for assassin nuns. It's not a school, it's a nunnery, an abbey, and she is trained there to become an assassin. The world is really interesting in this. It's not fully developed as much as I would have liked, I guess, or at least there's some inconsistencies in the world building that I feel like would have needed ironing out. So I'm hoping that at least that is being done in the sequels largely. I overall, though, really, really enjoyed this. Cannot wait to read the sequels. I think it's gonna be really cool. I think an assassin nuns just sounds really awesome. And if you're into that sort of stuff, definitely read this one. Next, we have The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. This is kind of a controversial book. I wasn't aware of this until kind of recently, but apparently some people don't like Quoth because he's sort of a misogynist at times. I personally didn't notice it. I don't really mind like subtle misogyny in a book if it's not like glaring me in the face. I think it's still a well-rounded character, and the world is well done, well built, and it's just so cool. I love these types of high fantasy books that follow one main character throughout their adventures, like their entire life in like a lot of detail. If the character is like likable or or at least relatable or well constructed, I love that. Those are my favorite kinds of books. So it's quite slow paced, quite character focused, and it's really, really cool. I love it. I do own book 2. Book 3, again, is probably never going to be published because the author is taking his sweet time, but I enjoyed it a lot, and I definitely want to continue and eventually hopefully finish also the series. Then we have Nevernight by Jay Kristoff. Book 2 is called God's Grave. It's already out. The third is coming out, I think, this year. So again, partially my fault for not having read the second, but at the same time, I think I need to reread the first. This is also about a young girl who is trained to become an assassin. Can you tell there's a small theme here of books that I love? It's really cool. Again, this is my issue with this book in particular. Not my issue, but the problem with me explaining the plot. I've forgotten literally the entire plot. I read this book, I think, in 24 hours because I couldn't not stop. I couldn't put it down. And when I did put it down, I felt like I was so overwhelmed that like anything specific instantly drained out of my brain. I could not recall like half of it a day later because I was so absorbed. I feel like it was very weird. It's like an outer body experience, except my mind was not in my body. It was in this book. And then it came back and it had not brought anything of this book with it. That's the only way I can put it. So I definitely have to reread this one. I only remember like pictures that I had in my mind while reading it. That's kind of how I read. I like conjure up these pictures. So I can't tell you much about it. I can just tell you I loved it and I'm going to continue. The next series is The City of Brass by S.A. Chakraborty. Oh, this is such a fun floppy paperback. But it's kind of hard to hold because it's just hanging there. This book is about genies, and I love genie stories, okay? It's kind of my assassins, genies. I'm all about that. It's set in 18th century Cairo. It follows a woman who discovers that she's like a genie somehow, like descendant of genie. She has powers. She can communicate with genies, and it's freaking amazing, okay? It's really well written. It's a really good YA fantasy that I think is actually more written like an adult story at times. It feels more adult than typical YA stories, even though I do think it's YA, but I'm not sure. I just love the setting. I love the cultural component of this being set in Egypt. I love the mythological cultural component of the genie. I think it's all very well done. The characters are fun. The story is fun and suspenseful. There's a little bit of a love hinted at least, and I'm obsessed with it. I am actually also probably going to have to reread this. The sequel is coming out right now, I think, or has already come out, so the second book, but I do believe it's going to be a trilogy as well, so I recommend this one. And the final series I can only hope to ever see the end of in my lifetime, and that is the Gentleman Bastard sequence by Locke Lamora. Cool. By Scott Lynch. The first book is called The Lies of Locke Lamora. Then we have Red Seas and the Red Skies, and finally The Republic of Thieves. The fourth book I think is finally coming out this year, but it's supposed to be like a 7-book series, so. And the publication for the fourth book has been pushed a couple times already. And so it's kind of the same as like the Name of the Wind situation, where it's just not sure, like you can't trust anything. But I love this series. I am obsessed with it. This is basically a better, more adult, more interesting version of Six of Crows. It was also here before Six of Crows, so actually Six of Crows is like a worse version of this. It follows a group of thieves that are just the most precious people ever, and especially the main character, Locke Lamora, he comes up with the most intricate schemes and heists, and it is so fun. Oh my god. I love the moment in these books when you've just been reading and you're like, what is he planning? Oh my god, they're in the deepest shit ever here. They're never gonna get out of it. And then Locke Lamora comes along, he's like, don't worry. I've been planning this all along. This was all part of my very elaborate plan. And it's just like, yes, coming through. Just coming back to Six of Crows, that book definitely tries to do something similar with Kaz, but it's so much less skilled, like obviously way less intricate and way less believable for him to have like just planned everything. I think that's actually one of my biggest criticisms for that duology, because it just did not make sense and it did not work. But here, it's done so well. I also love this world. I love the characters. They're little bit my babies, and they have so much personality, and they're such individuals. And again, it's one of these very intricate worlds with very intricate plot, very intricate political side as well at times. And it's just so good. Oh my god, this is making me so excited for the 4th book. I truly, truly hope it finally is being released this year. Wow, I've really hyped myself up for all of these series, and realizing that I can't read any of them now because A, I'm in the middle of other books, and B, some of these aren't even out yet or I don't own them, is very sad. So yay. Excuse me while I cry myself to sleep tonight. But that is it for all of my favorite ongoing series. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you found something new that you can maybe also get into. I know ongoing series are a little bit more like, I don't know, like, I'm gonna have to wait so long if I start it. Like, yeah, true. But some of these, as I said, are completed. And also, you know, I think sometimes the waiting is part of the fun. But I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Please give it a thumbs up if you did and subscribe to my channel. I would love to see you back for my next video. Until then, have a very lovely week. Bye!